I'd like to begin by acknowledging that this event is taking place on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and to all First Nations people who are here with us today. I'd also like to pay my respect to all the elders of the lands that this event may reach. So welcome to the inaugural Teen Gala, an event dedicated to showcasing some of the incredible work done by teens this year. I'm Tierney Khan and I'm going to be your host tonight. 2021 has been a tough year to say the least. It's something that has been especially felt by students and educators. But tonight is not about dwelling on that, and instead is about celebrating all that we did manage to achieve this year. Tonight, you're going to be hearing an array of speeches, poems and stories performed by some of the most promising emerging voices at the moment. You'll also be getting a sneak peek of some of the most exciting events we have coming up in 2022 in Wheeler education. So, without further ado, sit back and join us in celebrating some incredibly passionate and creative teens and the brilliant work they've created this year. We'll first hear from Zuva Gueva, a Year 12 student currently completing VCE. In 2021, she competed in and won the state final of the Plain English Speaking Award with a speech that highlights her passion for youth activism and the collective power of our generation. Zuva will now perform her speech, Seen and Not Heard, for us.
Children should be seen and not heard. The origins of this phrase are contested, with some suggesting it emerged as early as the 15th century. And when my brother wakes me up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, yelling to everyone on his Minecraft server right outside my door, I tend to agree. But the scope of this phrase and how it manifests in the world around us is a lot more sinister than Saturday morning sleep-ins. It's no secret that wisdom is widely considered a product of experience. You live and you learn, so to speak. And so it makes sense that the older you get, the more you know, and the more your perspective is valued. But we, the youth of today, are incredibly intelligent. In fact, we're on the trajectory to be the most educated generation yet. We've learned to adapt in ways and at rates that have never been seen before. We're socially aware and tech-savvy, with the 97% of us who are on at least one major social media platform, often using those mediums to advocate for good. 3 days after the killing of unarmed black man George Floyd in police custody, which occurred over a year ago, 8.8 million tweets were made with the hashtag Black Lives Matter. And on Instagram, there are over 1 million posts under the hashtag climate action. As a generation that hasn't really known a world without social media, much to the dismay of a few of our parents, we've been made to engage with all kinds of content like this, to actively invest in the progression of society and our place in it. So why then are we constantly being belittled by those in positions of power? Why do we as a society mentally equate youth with naivety and even recklessness? Dramatized images of crazy house parties and petty high school drama conjured up at the mention of the word teen. We're told that we don't understand, that we'll wait till we're older, or that we need to go to a good old-fashioned movie and watch it with a friend. As some of you might have recognized, that last one was a direct quote taken from former US President Donald Trump, aimed at a then 16-year-old Greta Thunberg. The patronizing remark was made in response to Time magazine's decision to label the young climate activist their Person of the Year. In spite of all of the criticisms that have been lodged against her, Thunberg has played a crucial role in bringing discussions about climate action to the forefront in recent years. She sparked the Fridays for Future movement at just 15 years of age, resulting in global-scale protests against the lack of action and accountability being taken by institutions in combating climate change. And the ripple effects of large-scale public youth activism like Thunberg's goes beyond the tangible. A 2020 study found that 87% of young people like us are inspired when we see our peers taking a stand against contemporary issues. X Gonzalez is another prominent young activist who has inspired countless young people across the world through their activism. a survivor of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, they've been an avid spokesperson for gun control in America, hosting the hashtag March for Our Lives, which birthed over 880 sister events across the globe. And yet, despite their astonishing bravery and courage, X2 has been met with contempt and condescension, being labeled a communist child actor by their fully grown critics. And it's infuriating, because here are these beacons of hope for us and our peers, living proof that we can be empowered to make a better future for ourselves, a symbolic invitation to us all for a seat at the table. These are the people who speak to us and for us, not the 60, 70, 80-something-year-old men who make up a majority of governments in a majority of the world. And yet their voices, our voices, are being silenced, ridiculed, mocked. We're not being heard, and really, we're being denied our chances to even be seen. And it's not an excuse either to say that we just don't have enough experience, because I can tell you that the opinions of someone who had to watch their friends get shot at school and wonder if they were next are just as, if not more valid in a conversation about gun control than a rich, privileged 74-year-old man who's been cashed up by the NRA, even if they're 18 and he's the president. We deserve to claim our stake in the issue of climate change and ask the generations above us, how dare you, without being told to chill. After all, according to Gallup Incorporated, 71% of them sleep perfectly fine at night, believing they won't be affected by it in their lifetime, while the majority of us lie awake. But beyond unfair, this is dangerous. The willingness of society to tune out the calls of its young people is dangerous because it breeds apathy. Here in Australia, it emboldened our Prime Minister to denounce young climate strikers in 2018, telling them to go back to class. Now, of course, education is extremely important. But why? So that we can do something with it. And this willingness to tell kids what they can, can't do, say, or even think allows people to forget that. Allows people to expect complacency over critical thinking. Allows people to believe that knowledge is only seen in the image of a full classroom when it is more clearly heard in the roaring cries of a rally. And when 300 million people's homes will be threatened by rising sea levels by 2050, according to Climate Central, or when 500 people die each day by gun violence in the US, as noted by Amnesty, we cannot expect silence from the leaders of tomorrow. The world needs to hear us, and it needs to be moved by us, because, not to be incredibly cliche, but we are the future. And we're not just the face of it. We sing its song. We echo its calls for better so that no one can forget. But, with all due respect for my elders, you need to listen. Student-led petitions for greater consent education, social media campaigns calling for an end to human rights abuses, school communities coming together to fundraise for better treatment of refugees. These are the voices of our youth, and they deserve to be listened to. We deserve to be listened to. So, while I still firmly maintain that my Saturday mornings would be a lot better without the uproar of a gaming preteen right outside my door before sunrise, I do believe that society needs to stop stifling the voices of its young people. Children should be seen and heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zuva. I've heard your speech a few times now, and I have to say that I still get that feeling of such empowerment every time I listen to it. In public speaking, when it's often taught in schools, there's often mention of a call to action, and you should include a call to action in your speech, something to get your audience involved. And I think that you've perfectly encapsulated that in your speech.
Thank you.
With that, what would you say to a young person who wants to get involved with activism or become more active in their community but doesn't really know where to start? What advice would you give them?
I would say, first of all, find your cause, because it can be quite overwhelming in this world that we live in when there's so much information out there to kind of know where to start in making the world a better place. So to kind of like hone in on something you're really passionate about, I think is the first step. And then head online, we have so many resources at our fingertips, on these social media platforms, like through Google, all this research that's so readily available to us, and also opportunities to kind of get out that are advertised online. So I'd say, kind of find your cause and then just go for it.
Thanks, Zuva. Thanks again. I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
Next, we will be hearing from Zephyr Kamal, a Year 10 student at University High and the winner of this year's Kill Your Darlings School Writing Prize. Zephyr will be reading us an excerpt of her winning piece, The Despair of Growing Up in the Climate Crisis.
Thanks, Tierney. So this is a bit like time switchy, so just bear with me. Mum, are the cracks in the ground from the earthquake? What earthquake, darling? With the dinosaurs. Sweetheart, that was a long, long, long time ago. Then why are there still cracks from it? The cracks are because the ground is too dry, so it splits open to look for water. The Millennium Drought had an iron grip on Southeast Australia from 2001 to 2009, possibly the worst drought the country has faced since colonisation. Many children had never seen rain for as long as they'd been alive. Industry was collapsing, agriculture was on its last legs. The Murray-Darling Basin was all but dried up. Even in Australia, we were starting to feel the repercussions of the way we'd been treating our planet. Ash falls from the burnished orange sky. The sun is a pale white dent. Smog clouds the horizon. We lie on the lawn, trying to read ashy scraps of newspaper that was sent from the sky. It's the December of 2019. The term greenhouse effect was first recorded in the early 1800s. Changes in the climate were suspected to be caused by human interference by the late 19th century. It took until the 1960s for it to be regarded as a serious issue, and by the 70s and 80s, fossil fuel giants were already trying to find ways to downplay its significance. Exxon was at the forefront of climate change research, and yet misrepresented their findings as inconclusive. BP invented the term carbon footprint to redirect responsibility onto the consumer. Even today, misinformation is rife. Corporations such as ExxonMobil and many others are still pouring money into climate denial research, and politicians are still taking money from these corporations to spread climate skepticism. Global warming has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, yet very little has been done, and it's starting to get too late. Neither I nor my family has been personally affected by climate change. I lived a privileged life in a first world country. Yet for me and many of my friends and classmates, it's one of our primary worries. Children around the world are watching the inaction of their governments, feeling terrified and powerless. This essay is just unremarkable because it's not just my story. It's the story of a generation, powerless against the doom we see so clearly. Us Gen Z kids, we live a weird type of privilege. We have the whole world at our fingertips, but carry it on our back. Or, as Bo Burnham puts it, the whole world at your fingertips, the ocean at your door. In this age of constant information overload, we're bombarded with news of the horrors of the world. We're safe here in our bubble, but we just have to sit and watch.
Thank you, Zephyr. It's such a powerful piece. I specifically resonate with the idea that you mentioned of Gen Z having the world at our fingertips but having to carry it on our backs. I think that you're so right that we are constantly bombarded with things, but there is a very specific feeling of helplessness that comes along with having to watch it through our screens. Now, I know that this is a big question, but if Scott Morrison was listening right now, what would you want to say to him regarding the climate crisis?
Just stop it. I think there's not anything that he's not heard. It's not just like he hasn't heard of the climate crisis and that's why he's not acting on it. But, you know, Scotty, if you're listening, please, we're going to die. A lot of people are going to lose their lives, so please just stop doing whatever you're doing and start acting, because it's too late already.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you once again. I'm sure I'm not alone in the hope that Scott Morrison will decide to tune in and listen to that. Next, we will be hearing from the three winners of the 2021 Out Loud Poetry Slam. We'll first hear from 13-year-old Red Brazil, the winner of the Year 7 and 8 division of Out Loud. Red likes to have fun with his poems, with rhymes and with language. He will now read us his winning poem, A Watcher's Revenge.
Yeah, that's fine. Tick, 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 tick. We see the world from your wrist, forced to watch you turn and twist. Tick, 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 tick. We never sleep, that you insist. We're forced to work through rain, storm, hail, and mist. Tick, 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 tick. We've lost our taste, our sense of smell, since we've got no food in this eternal hell. Tick, 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 tick. God, this is hard work. We slave away night and day, and our great reward is to hear you say, "Huh, it's 2:30. Well, us watchers will have our day. Us swatchers and cutchers and seekers and Fitbits, we'll show you all your misfits. We'll sneak up in the dead of night, detaining the wretched humans with the power of fright. We'll tie 'em up and throw 'em in jail and keep 'em there until the morning light. And on that day we'll have our say, we'll pin you to our wrists, and you may scream and writhe about, and shout and turn and twist. But what you do matters not, for the watchers will start anew. We'll tear down the world and build it up much better than you. The birds will sing louder, the sun will shine brighter, and sing with the birds we will do. We'll build watch towns, watch towers, watch houses. We'll build them so tall we'll make yours look like ounces, and oh, most importantly of all, it'll be you telling us the time. Tick, 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 that's all you'll do. Just like for centuries what we've had to do. And as for us, we'll dance and shout hooray. But until that extraordinary day, we wait and tick-tock our blues away.
Thank you, Red. That was great. Now I'm going to be asking all three winners of Out Loud the same question, but we'll kick it off with Red. Mm-hmm. Talk me through your process of deciding what to write about. Why did you decide? What made you go, this is the thing I want to write about?
Well, we were writing a poem for English, and I was kind of scrambling to think of something to write about. And I looked at my watch, and I thought to myself, well, if my watch was alive, what would it tell me to do? And then a minute later, I thought, well, thank God no one was around to hear me say that. But it was playing on my mind, and I wondered if they would be angry at us for, making them our slaves. So that's how the poem came to be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Eric Bien, a Year 9 student at Melbourne High School and the winner of the Year 9 to 12 division of Out Loud. Along with writing, Eric also enjoys listening to music, calligraphy and fashion. Eric will now perform his winning poem for us called I Love You.
What if I told you, once upon a time, in a world far from here, the stars glimmered a little brighter, the sun smiled a little warmer, the water rippled a little smoother, and the sky embraced us all a little softer, so we all lived happily ever after. Except, for once upon a time indicates the somber truth that what we have now is not this picture-perfect happily ever after. Tonight, this sweet melody transfuses in unison with the delicate reflection in the water, each small twinkle sparking a further sense of ataraxy. But these thoughts in my head act like a suffocating weighted blanket, silencing my wishes and dulling my senses. A paralyzing repeat that taunts me time and time again are these words that I want to convey. There are no words in between these lines that can encapsulate this feeling. It feels like a euphonious rhythm that sounds so complete, but so empty from beneath. A song with a blissful persona on the surface, but a tsunami of melancholy from inside. Every person in this world has a spirit, defining them with pure distinctiveness. The colors in the sunset represent these everlasting characteristics. Each color so pale on its own, but once together, a breathtaking view that's an enchantment with guaranteed effect. These colors in the sunset slowly fade away to reveal a velvety coat of ominous black, tainted with the presence of splattered white stars. Black and white. Such contrasting colors, yet such compatibility with each other. And then the sun rises again, unveiling a newfound zest of hues, marking an incoming and treacherous quest. Is this what we could be? When one's colors faint to pure nothingness, they are illuminated by glistening stars, helping them to rise once again. This sweet melody makes me wonder, if the if and what if became this utopian reality, would it mean that our happily ever after could be what Romeo and Juliet didn't have? Do you know how I feel? This emotion resembles that of a secret garden, where overgrown lilies and daisies infest about, hiding the weeds and thorns that cultivate underneath. But even if our own songs on these screens contradict, once they're put together, a timeless melody that sways in the luminous night is produced. Our souls will pounce, symphonious, longing for one another because it's you. In the end, all that's left for me to ask is, do you think of me too? Do you lay your eyes on me too? Do you look for me in a crowd too? Do you feel this way too? If so, would we complement each other like the sky and the stars? Would our hearts beat as one? If so, could I mutter the words, I love you too? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Eric. That was beautiful. Same question as Red, but just talk me through why you decided to write about the topic you wrote about.
I think it's a very typical Melbourne High boy sort of thing to, I guess, care about current affairs and what's going on in society. So when my English teacher first gave us this assignment, I realized that a lot of my topics drew in on, I guess, the impact of social media. And so I thought, why not try something different and write a love poem to show, I guess, the difference between what we consider like traditional Romeo and Juliet love and love in a world impacted by society. And at first I was very, very, I guess, skeptical of writing this just because, as a teenage boy writing about love, it's a bit weird. But if anything, this experience has taught me that, sometimes all I need is 5 seconds of super insane courage to just push my boundaries, and oftentimes great results will come out of it. So, yeah.
Definitely, yes. Thank you, Eric. Finally, we'll hear from the overall winner of Out Loud, Lee Pennefather. Lee is 14 years old and enjoys literature and performing arts. They're looking forward to finding new ways to express themselves and their ideas. Lee will now read us their winning poem, What Would You Say?
What would you say if I said, hey, my name's Lee, I use the pronouns they, he, what would you say? If I told you that science says too that there are more than two genders, that biology shoots down your precious piles of protests in psychology about the label I use that prove that there are actually 6 sexes, of chromosomes and fusions of genes that apparently define what's in your genes too, what would you say? If I told you that even as neither a man or a woman, I'm still scared to walk alone. I'm still scared to walk at night. I'm still scared to walk past a pub without my hands over my chest, dressed in hoodies to hide the breasts that define me as an object. By the men who leer out of car doors and windows, the men whose comments don't fall on deaf ears and instead steer me away as they say the things I wouldn't like to hear, though what would you say? If I ask quietly for you not to call me a girl, not to fit me into that little box where swirls of discomfort, dysphoria, and disorientation dislodge the neutrality I fight so hard to maintain while you complain that your brain can't manage to just call me they, what would you say? If I let loose the tight-lipped mouth that keeps in the thoughts in my head, the noose that chokes the judgment from my throat in fear of what you'll say back, if I scream the thoughts and the things from the thick haze of my mind and you take it as an attack, what would you say? If I told you that every day I'd look in the mirror and I was upset because I saw a body that didn't fit right with my mind, and yet still you stand and say, boys and girls, sitting pearls of doubt into the pout that sprouts on my face with every misgender and every she-her that's thrown my way, what would you say? If when you call for boys to the left and girls to the right, I didn't move. If I stood in the center, away from the gender, away from the restriction of the binary that lays in a vinery of weight on my mind, what would you say? If I told you that every single time I speak, I'm conscious and cautious and careful of the voice that comes out from my throat, the sound that I choke on, because if it's not when I've only just woke, I don't sound like a bloke, and instead just a broken girl poking fun at the deep croak of a masculine voice, what would you say? If I told you not to apologize when I tell you that my name is actually Lee, and I don't like the pronouns she, her, the pronouns that run amok, mocking the identity I hold, I don't expect you to stammer and bow at my feet, waxing poetic anthologies of apologies as an overdramatic, fanatic attempt to make better the disaster that your half-assed attempt at asking me a question has apparently created, because God forbid you offend the queer non-binary person who merely has a different idea of their identity to you, which is just shocking. And apparently I'm cocking the gun of sensitivity I hold at my side as a proclivity for every single negativity that comes my way, but no. I don't need you to apologize. I just want you to be so wise and unlike the other guys that you correct yourself and move on instead of feeling like you've dropped some sort of offensive bomb as if it doesn't happen to me every day, because hey, we all make mistakes. So what would you say if I said, hey, my name's Lee, I use the pronouns they, he. What about you? Thank you, that's it.
Thank you so much, Lee. That was really powerful. I love how diverse all the topics were of the poems. I think that it's truly a testament to the fact that art has no blueprint and that it comes in so many forms in so many different ways. Now, Lee, final question. Talk me through your process of writing. Why did you decide to write about what you did?
Well, kind of like what Red said, this started as a school assignment, and I just kind of thought about the things that are important to me. And last year, especially during the lockdown, I struggled a heap with my gender identity and like gender dysphoria. So I thought it would be a cool thing to talk about, because maybe if other trans, non-binary people like heard it, they might feel a little bit less alone, because it's really scary going through stuff like that alone. So yeah, just stuff like that, and trying to like let people know what it's like.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Lee. Thank you once again to Red, Eric and Lee for sharing your poems with us and giving us a glimpse of your creative process. Well, this brings us to our preview part of the evening. As you can see, 2021 has introduced us to some incredible creatives, and we can't wait to see what they do next. In 2022, we've already programmed some incredible events, and we'd like to treat you to a teaser of two of them now. First up is Bernard Calio, a comic book teacher, maker, and communicator who is one of the brains behind local graphic novel publishing enterprise 12 Panels Press. Bernard will be hosting and introducing us to our upcoming STEAM series, 100 Seconds Till Midnight. In this pair of events, supplemented by in-school workshops, we'll be navigating a hypothetical climate disaster with the help of real-life experts. Audiences will watch the disaster unfold and then have the opportunity to participate in its resolution. I'll hand over to Bernard now to set the scene.
Thank you. Thanks, Tierney. Thanks, and it's a great honour as an aged person to be sharing this stage in the wake of the words and ideas that are still swirling around up here so actively. So thank you for all of the performers and your work. I'm just going to get my machine going because I'm going to draw some pictures for you. Okay, all right. So this indeed is, let's go, the program called 100 Seconds to midnight. Can we have a bit of a, oh, very nice, very nice. Thank you very much. To midnight, ... Here's the clock. Here's the midnight, and here's the, and really red, totally riffing on you here. Tick, 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 tick. In this program, upcoming at the Wheeler Centre next year, dunk. The scene is set. We're at a beautiful, gorgeous, intimate, new Victorian country town. Look at the little houses. Oh, they're so beautiful. And it's very lush. Oh, so lush, lovely, beautiful green. And the waves come in every day. And all the people in the town, what colour are we making? Grey. And they just stand on the sand. There they are on the sand, and there they are. Back to that colour. And they just look out to sea, and they're so happy, right? This is, sorry, I forgot to say, but this is like in 5 years' time, like near future. And some of them, sorry, that was a bit loud, but some of them get on little boards, and they ride them in, and, it's everybody's very, happy. But far to the south. What was I going to write here? I was going to do. Meanwhile, ... caption box. Meanwhile, far to the south, in Antarctica. Water. Massive, thank you, ice cubes. Bigger than ice cubes though, but still ice, right? And the water is coming in, and it's very cold. And in fact, there's a polar bear. Someone say, no, there's not. Well, actually, this polar bear is it's holidaying. It's just looking for somewhere cold. And it's gone down there. It looks more like a wolf, but that's okay. It's got a little polar bear suit on, and it's just thinking, what am I doing here? But then the polar bear realizes that it's part of a story, so it has to be there because there's suddenly, gulp, an enormous... Oh no! Oops, sorry. Oh man, turn off the rubber. Turn on the pen. There we go. Splash! The big ice cube, as you said, falls into the ocean. The water, oops, different colour. Water, of course, this water smashes, swirls, swooshes across the Southern Ocean, going very, very fastly towards, here it comes, enormous tsunami-ness coming towards. Exactly, thank you very much. That was a beautiful indrawn breath. Towards our tiny little village with the people saying, yes, that! Ooh! Zunk, 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 zunk. Okay, so this is sort of all the scene setting for this program. At this point, we sort of just stop time and we invite into the Wheeler Centre and people from schools. We invited, come on, machine. 3 experts. Here are the experts. There's one of them is a scientist, glasses. And I'm sorry, but for me, a scientist is always going to be Graham Garden from The Goodies, which is a really old TV show from centuries ago. So he's a scientist and he's got a flask on his T-shirt with bubbles coming out of it. Yeah. he's a good guy. We've got a scientist. We've got an Indigenous astronomer. She's really going to be looking after us. And we've got to give her another eye. And astronomer. So she's going to have like Saturn on her T-shirt. And finally, a environmentalist. Might give them shorter hair and like a tree on their shirt, and they're very wise too. So these people will come into the Wheeler Centre, whoop, boom, 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 and they'll talk with the students, and they will make up some way of saving the tiny town, saving the inhabitants really of the tiny town from the I can't go backwards, but the tsunami coming in. Quick suggestion, like just off the top of your head, how they'd save the inhabitants of the town. A wall, thank you very much, perfect. So they decide after much consultation, hours of thinking and really, a wall. Sure, so why not? So let's go to here, come on, there we go. So they're going to build a wall. It's kind of bad news. Anyway, that's fine. We're moving, we're working quick, right? So the colour of the wall will be purple. Purple, is that right? Purple, great. So the purple wall is built outside the town. There's the hill, by now iconic hill that we all recognise, and the little houses, and all the people standing there going, "Where's our surf?" No, they're saying yes, hooray! Our lives have been saved. Thank you very much, the Wheeler Centre and the people and that sort of thing. But okay, so everybody, a massive sigh of relief. 1, 2, 3. Oh, those lovely people in the little town. Sure, they've got an enormous wall to look at, not so grouse, but anyway, maybe they could paint something on it. So that's all fine, right? We've saved their lives. Hurrah. But then, what can we do? Yeah, thank you. That's great. Can we all do that together? Dun, dun, dun. 1, 2, 3. Dun, dun, dun. Come on, close. That's it. And there we go. The polar bear turns up. Yeah. And there he is with his little ears. And he goes, "Excuse me. I've just swum in from the, actually he's on a thing, one of those things. He's on an ice cube. And he says, "Excuse me, but we're still in really big trouble. Like, I know there's a wall, that's fantastic, but I was just been there at the Antarctica where I was having a holiday, and the crash of the ice that went in before is nothing compared to the crack of the ice that is coming in. This whole place, not just you're not going to do it with a wall. You're not going to do it with a wall. You're not going to save this place with a wall. You're going to need to get these experts, get them to go out into the schools and actually get ideas, as we've been hearing from the speakers already who've been up here, from the students. We're going to need to, that's how serious this problem is. We're going to need to go. So the experts at this part of the program, I know we're mixing fact and fiction here, but at the best part of the program, the experts go out to schools and they get really, really excellent ideas from the students, and then they save us all. Really. So please help. So that's that. So that's the 100 seconds to midnight program, and there will be this the saving of the things of the situation in the immediate term with those three people, those three experts. But really, it's the working with schools and getting the wisdom. Thank you, you guys. That will make in this program the world saved, but really, actually, the actual real world will be saved. So that is 100 seconds to midnight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. That sounds like it's going to be a great event, and I'm looking forward to being saved. Next up is Elsa Chewett Rosenberg, a queer, Jewish and Chinese woman of colour. She's an educator, facilitator, activist and performer, and the co-founder of anti-racist organisation Hue. In 2021, Elsa worked with the teens Sabina and Jin Young to develop Australian High School Anti-Racism Kit. They'll be talking all things anti-racism in Teens Talk Racism, the first in our series of professional development sessions for educators by teens. Elsa is going to give you a taste of the project here with some help of some special appearances by Sabina and Jin.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Elsa. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the co-founder and director of Hue, Colour the Conversation. We are an anti-racism and a social justice organisation, and we deliver a range of different training programs and also consulting to organisations, community groups across schools and not-for-profit sector, etc. We basically were formed because we saw a massive gap in a lot of the diversity and inclusion work that we saw happening with organisations. We noticed that a lot of these conversations were actually much more about politeness than actually uprooting or challenging the systems of oppression that impact marginalised people and people of colour. And we also felt like a lot of the action that was happening had a real disregard for people with lived experience of these systems of oppression. And while people who didn't have those lived experiences were being platformed and paid to do that work, people of colour and people from marginalised communities were forced to do this work constantly for free in their personal lives, in their workplaces, over and over and over again. And we saw that as a really massive issue. So we launched Hue with an emphasis on platforming lived experience and having difficult conversations and taking a systemic lens to the issues that impact our lives. So, as you can imagine, with that basis, I was pretty excited at the beginning of this year to receive an email from two high school students, Sabina and Jin Young, who had said that they had spent their last year of school, their year 12, through lockdown, developing an anti-racism kit by high school students of colour for other high school students. At Hue, we're really passionate about community doing things for community, so we were really, really excited to hear from them. I got on the phone to a graphic designer of colour and was like, do you think that you could work on this? And got some consultants and editors involved to work on what was already a really incredible project. I opened up this email and there was a 40-page Google Doc with so much comprehensive information about how high schoolers can start challenging racism, not only in unlearning it for themselves, but in their schools and their society more broadly as well. Fast forward, like 9 months later, we launched the High School Anti-Racism Kit in September. You can find it at antiracismkit.com.au. We worked with really incredible people on the project, almost entirely a team of people of colour and First Nations people. When we got the kit, they had already done a whole lot of work gathering information and ideas from their peers, from elders, from educators, and had created something really, really brilliant. And what we got the opportunity to do was support them to put it online, make it really accessible, and help to distribute it to schools. But I think it would be better to hear from them. So Sabina and Jin Young have put together a couple of videos so that you can hear for yourself what they've been up to. So I think first we're going to hear from Sabina.
Hi, I'm Sabina, I'm 18, and I'm one of the co-founders for the Australian High School Anti-Racism Kit. And basically, as its name suggests, the Anti-Racism Kit, or ARC for short, it's a resource made by young people of colour for other young people, and it's designed to show them the tangible, actionable ways in which they could address racism within their communities. And essentially, ARC started off as a bit of a lockdown project. So Jin and we were in year 12 when lockdown sort of started happening across the country in April 2020. And we thought that lockdown was an opportunity for us to use that extra time and push it towards something that we felt really strongly about. So essentially, during that period, it was a lot of collating anti-racism resources, absorbing them and synthesizing them into a form that just felt more actionable and digestible for young people. And we actually, we finished it in 2020, but after we graduated from high school, we realized that we actually wanted to redevelop it. So that was sort of what we were up to throughout all of 2021. And that was where Hugh sort of came in, and they have really supported and backed us throughout this whole redevelopment process right up to today. And to me, making ARC is all about recognizing the agency of young people. It's about speaking with them, not at them, and actually recognizing their ability to create change within their communities. And ARC is sort of saying like, hey, we recognize this ability and we want you to foster and develop that. Because I think that's something that both adults and young people themselves tend to underestimate, this capacity to create positive change. And it's something that we don't often nurture.
Hi, I'm Jin. I'm the other co-founder of the Australian High School Anti-Racism Kit. And like Sabina said, we're really excited about what this kit will do in schools, within individuals, and in society. So I'll be talking about the three sections more, self, schools, and society. So in the self section, it's all about combating racism from within. So it's making yourself more aware of how racism manifests in society, and also tackling any racism that might be within yourself, whether this be through internalized racism as a person of color, or just being racist to other people. And in the school section, we have stuff specific to how you can fight racism in schools. And we have very clear, actionable steps on initiatives you can take, on resources that you can use to be able to do this. And in the society section, finally, with everything kind of coming together, we have information on major racism issues in Australian society, whether this be for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, for refugees, and more. So in the end, what Sabina and I set out to create at the end of year 12 was just something that we would want to use, something that would be able to actionably fight racism. And we got an email recently, and not to brag, but just wanted to share it with you. It was just after we had launched, and a student said, "Hi, I know you've recently just launched, so I hope I'm not bombarding the emails, but this is the most excited I've been about something in a very long time. Due to anxiety around change, I never left my high school when the racism started around year 8. It's something that I've been dealing with all the way up to, almost, thanks COVID, graduating this year. A resource like this is what my school and many others desperately need to help end stories like mine in future years. So thank you for developing the most exciting thing I've seen all week." Signs like these encouraged us that what we were doing actually mattered. And with your support, whether if you're a student and maybe you should just use it, or if you're a teacher and you can spread this to other students, it'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, I reckon Jin Young and Sabina are well within their rights to brag. What they've created is incredible. It's so comprehensive. It's so accessible. And I really, really encourage people to check it out if you haven't already. It's at antiracismkit.com.au. You can also find them on Instagram at antiracismkit. And there are actually some opportunities at the moment. They're looking for, and we're always open to, high schoolers of colour who are interested in participating. Right now they have a couple of volunteer roles around social media and around the distribution of the kit. So if you are interested or know some young people that might be, please jump on, have a look, enjoy it for yourself. I know people that have started using the resource even in their workplaces, even though it's designed for schools. So it is a really comprehensive and such an accessible resource. I really encourage you to check it out and give them the respect that it really deserves, because there have been so many young people that have put really their heart and soul and experiences into it, and it shows. So yeah, check it out. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Elsa, Sabina and Jin. It's such an important initiative and it sounds like it's going to be a really insightful event. Well, that brings us to the end of our event tonight. I hope that you all have felt as inspired and optimistic about the future watching these young people as I have. Thank you all for coming and for showing your support to our speakers. If these events sound good to you, please consider signing up for our Wheeler Education newsletter for information on these upcoming events and ways to get involved with the program. Details are on the Wheeler Centre website. Thank you all for tuning in and coming. I hope you all have a great night.